Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 3 of All Time Replay, the podcast where we relive the greatest moments in sports. Tonight, I want to take you back to the life and times of Dale Earnhardt Sr. Um, if I get choked up while this episode is going on, you'll have to forgive me. Dale Earnhardt Sr. was the first sports icon that I idolized as a young adult. I discovered NASCAR at the age of 22 when I arrived in Nashville, Tennessee. During my time in Nashville, before I joined the Army, I used to work on a paint crew. Um, I was in construction, right? I was a painter. I worked on a paint crew. We did new construction. It was all new construction. Hardly ever did any repaints. Now, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm on a paint crew. You care to guess the demographics of this paint crew? I was the only brown guy on the team, okay? We had a great crew, man. We had a great boss, Tony Collins. Tony Collins Custom Painting. He's still in Nashville, Tennessee, just painting everything that goes up. He has been, well, I met him in 90. I met him in 95. 94 and 95, I went to work for him, and he's still slinging it. He's got crews going. Well, I mentioned Tony, who didn't like Dale Earnhardt, by the way. He wasn't a Dale Earnhardt fan at all. But his brother-in-law, who worked on the team, his name was Raymond. We called him Bubba. Bubba was a huge Dale Earnhardt fan, man. Like, it was just ridiculous what a huge fan this guy was. Now, I don't judge, man, just because it's NASCAR. You know, I understand about collecting all kinds of memorabilia for the teams that you love. Okay, I collect all kinds of crap for the Rangers, Cowboys, the Yankees, stuff like that. So I totally get that. But every Monday when I'd come into work, I'd have to hear two things: country music, which I wasn't used to. I came from Miami. I'm in Nashville now, so I had to hear country music, and of course, I had to hear Bubba, Tony, and the guys talking about what happened at the race. Who won the race the previous day on Sunday, right? Yeah. So and that just grew on me, man. So one day, it's a Sunday after church, living in Nashville, and I want to figure out what the craze is about NASCAR, right? Like, what's these people watch this racing? Like, what is going on? I understood right away it was a cultural, regional thing, right? I grew up in South Florida. South Florida, we don't do NASCAR. We have the Miami Grand Prix. Um, so, anyways, I turned on the race. It might have been, this was in 94, it might have been Talladega or something. And can't remember the track. But I remember seeing a black Chevrolet. This might have been when they were racing Luminas before they went to the Monte Carlo, because they went to the Monte Carlo, I want to say in the mid 90s. But I saw this black Chevrolet with a white number 3 on it. And that car was impressive to watch. It zipped and it zagged and it found its way to the front of the pack. And when that driver crossed the start finish line and he won the race, and then I saw something I'd never seen before my entire life. NASCAR fans, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. The burnout after winning the race, right? Before you go pick up the checkered flag. I mean, that's always an incredible sight at a race. And then seeing that, and then this dude gets out of the car, takes off his helmet, and he's got this bushy brown hair and this big old mustache, and he just looked like the Marlboro Man. I was like, wow, who the hell is that dude? He was a bad looking dude, Dale Earnhardt, man. He sure was. I said, you know what? I'm gonna start watching racing. That's my driver right there. That's a bad dude. he he found his way to the front. He did that a lot throughout his career. I know there's NASCAR fans listening, by God. All my friends back in Tennessee and Kentucky. I've got NASCAR friends here in Utah, believe it or not. I used to work with a fellow named Scott for a brief period of time. He was a huge NASCAR fan, but he'd never been to a track east of the Mississippi. Let me tell you, it's a different world. then again, I've never been to a track west of the Mississippi, but I've heard that you can't take your own drinks into these western tracks. But now I've been to Bristol in the spring, my first race. Man, what an experience that was. I've been to Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Coca-Cola 600, the longest race of the year. And I've been to Darlington a bunch of times. And you come into these tracks, show your ticket, you bring your cooler, you set it on the table, you open it up, and they're gonna look inside. The only reason they're looking inside, they told me is at Bristol. The only reason they're looking inside is to make sure you ain't got no bomb making material. Okay, you're not gonna create any problems. All right, you're not gonna harm anyone. You ain't got no guns. You're not trying to sneak any weapons in there. Okay, that's all they care about. Dude, I have sat at Charlotte Motor Speedway in the grandstands, right, with the family, and some blonde and Daisy Dukes over here is being passed from dude to dude to dude on our row, and she got a freaking half gallon of Jim Beam in her hand. She's giving a shot to each guy, and after each guy takes a shot, she takes a shot. That's the South, baby. So I don't know if it's like that out west. I wouldn't doubt it if they were a little cleaner. But if you haven't been to a NASCAR race, I highly recommend it. Go to a southern track. You know, if you're within driving distance, and I'm talking about 4 to 6 hours of any track in the South, by God, go. It's a fun time. You don't have to pay for concessions because you could bring. We've brought pulled pork barbecue sandwiches to Darlington Motor Speedway. We've brought cases of beer and sodas for kids and drinks. And listen, it's the smartest. It's the most ingenious idea. Think about it. If the people that are patronizing your sport don't have to spend an arm and a leg to feed their families while they're there, or to have a few drinks while you're watching the race, what do they get to do with all that money? They get to spend it at all the trailers. They got merch. It's a great idea, and you still end up buying a whole bunch of merch, more than you would if you spent money on food. But it's a fun time. NASCAR is a fun time. Get out to a race if you haven't been to one yet. Take the family. It's a really good family experience in the South. Most races they start off with prayer, obviously the national anthem. It's just a real fun time. Dale Earnhardt from Kannapolis, North Carolina. This guy was born in 1951. Okay, he was a baby boomer, which means he was most probably raised by somebody of the World War II generation. A guy named Ralph Earnhardt, who was also a race car driver. Dale Earnhardt Sr., named Ralph Dale Earnhardt Sr., just went by Dale or Dale Earnhardt, um, broke into racing in the 70s. He broke into he broke in doing dirt track racing in southern part of North Carolina. Now, back in those days, you if you made third place, it was $100 in the 70s. Okay, so if you didn't finish at least third, you were you were out. You weren't getting paid. There was no payday. It's not like today where all these sponsors, right? And even, you got 43 cars, 1 through 43. They're all making some kind of money on that race. It don't matter where they place. Back in Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s day, when he first started racing on them dirt tracks in North Carolina, he had to finish at least third, or he wasn't going to be able to put no food on the table that week. Um, so he had to find a way to get to the front of the pack, right? At least third. Obviously, first place, a few $100, and that was big money back in the mid 70s. Dale Earnhardt debuted in 1979, where he won Rookie of the Year. In 1980, he won his first of 7 Winston Cup championships. That's an incredible career. Only 3 people in NASCAR, to my knowledge, I haven't watched NASCAR in quite some time due to the changes in the sport, right? Like it's just changed it's way too much for me to keep up with all the different segments that they've gone to now and the different it's just way too much. There were people that complained when they went to the point system when it was the Sprint Cup. But nonetheless, um, only three people, to my knowledge, have won 7 championships, and that's the King, Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt Sr., and Jimmy Johnson, who's the most recent to do it. Jimmy Johnson owned like the middle part of the early 2000s, just owned it. We'll talk about it later, where Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon came into his own in those upper 90s years, man. He was just dominating the sport. He had 23 wins. 23 NASCAR wins in 2 seasons. That is ridiculous. And he did. He dominated. He dominated till Jimmy Johnson came around. And, the funny thing is that, that they both raced for the same guy, right? Rick Hendrick. But man, and both those guys, I tell you, what a stall of drivers Hendrick had, didn't he? Rick Hendrick had a hell of a stall of drivers, man. And then later on, of course, Dale Earnhardt Jr. joins him, which, you Earnhardt Jr. fans, how y'all feel about that? When he went to Rick Hendrick, I mean, he already had all these champions in the damn stall. He didn't, and all Junior had ever won was a Daytona. I mean, up to that point, all he'd ever won was a Daytona. I kind of feel like he should have gone to go race for his uncle, Richard Childress. Doesn't that make sense? Wouldn't that make sense? Like, his father used to hunt, fish, camp out, carry on, drink, all kinds of stuff together. I mean, they were like brothers. Richard Childress and Dale Earnhardt Sr. They were like brothers, man. Hunting buddies, fishing buddies, and Junior grew up around that. He grew up around those two, man. That was his uncle. So why in the hell did he go race for RCR, dude? Like, I didn't understand that. But whatever. The day we lost Senior, my loyalties transferred over to the number 8 red Budweiser Chevrolet at DEI. DEI. I think that's hilarious in 2026 when you speak of Dale Earnhardt Incorporated and you abbreviate it, it's DEI. That's just funny, man. But anyways, his career was fantastic, man. 7 championships. First one, just a second year at full-time Winston Cup. 86 and 87, he won back-to-back Winston Cup championships. So by this point, he's already building, just his career. And you got to understand who's in NASCAR at that time, right? Richard Petty still the king. He's still racing. You've got all these guys that are still in the game, right? Mark Martin, a younger Mark Martin back in the 80s. Ernie Irving, guys that we don't have anymore. One second here, guys. Yeah, so 1994 is another season that he won a championship in. That was his last season, actually, 94. Um, and he had a pretty good season. He won a few races. However, he would between 94 and 98. He's about to go through one of the darkest periods of his racing career because he wasn't winning a lot of races. Okay, in 1997, I want to say it was 97. Give me one second here. In 1998, the year he won Daytona, that was the only race he won that year. That year, Jeff Gordon won the Cup in 1998. He won $6 million doing so to Dale Earnhardt's 2.5. But let's be real. Dale Earnhardt had been making money in NASCAR before Jeff Gordon was probably born. But he only won that one race. 1997, Dale Earnhardt wins 0 races. That had to have been tough. Now he had 7 top 5s, 16 top 10s. You know those things they do pay you. He did make 1.5 that year. 1996, Dale Earnhardt finished fourth in points, made 1.6 million. Off those points, he won 2 races. Okay, telling he was about to go to some hard times after he won that last championship. Man, that was sad. Then 1998 rolls around. 1998. I was in the United States Army, stationed at Camp Casey, South Korea. 1st Battalion, 72nd Armor, 1st Tank. Who you with? 1st Tank? Yeah. And back at the tank, my old Army buddies would get that reference, back at the tank. But back at the tank, 1998, it was February, I believe it was the 15th, the Daytona 500, 1998. And I was in February of 98, I was in the field for a 2-week field problem. Now, this is a field problem where you're out there really roughing it, right? Sometimes in the Army, you veterans know what I'm talking about, right? Back before the world went to war, when we used to go to the field for training, you went on a 30-day field problem. You know, you either had porcelain or you didn't have porcelain. There were facilities for you to use, or there weren't facilities for you to use. In Korea, when we go to the field, we went 3 times total in a year tour, right? 2 gunneries and a war steed. The gunneries happen at the beginning and the end of your tour, pretty much, and then um, you're in a tent city, so you're sleeping under a tent. You have electricity. You can plug in a fan, right? You have showers. Hell, there's even a cafe where a cantina where you can order Korean food. Okay, um, and then there's War Steed, which is 2 weeks, and it's a real like high speed training simulation that they put on every year, and there's different branches participate some years. So we're at War Steed. I'm a medic, so I'm in the medic tent, and I'm sitting on a little camouflage chair, right? You get them at Dick's. Camouflage, or in color. And I'm reading this newspaper. You veterans know what I'm talking about. The Stars and Stripes. Okay? It's an American newspaper that you get overseas, right? If you're in the military, I mean, you go to the PX, you may not find the New York Times, but you'll find the Stars and Stripes. So I'm reading over the Stars and Stripes, and this is like a few days later. And guess what I read in the sports section of the Stars and Stripes? Dale Earnhardt finally wins Daytona. I didn't get to see it. I was in the field. Ain't that some BS, man? I was in the field training, and I had to read about it in the Stars and Stripes. Dale Earnhardt Sr., my hero in NASCAR, has finally won the Daytona 500. Now, he had a nickname that he didn't like, that you know, the media would refer to him as, right? And that was the bridesmaid of Daytona, of the Daytona 500. Now, he won a summer race from time to time, but that first race of the year at Daytona, that trophy, man, it eluded him so many times. 5 times, as a matter of fact. 84, 93, 95, 96, and the year after he won it, he finished second. So, I mean, this guy, he ran great at Daytona. He always ran great. Um, he wasn't a big fan of the restrictor plate, and you have to understand that before the restrictor plate, these cars, 200 plus miles an hour, man, going down the straightaway. When you're at a super speedway like Daytona Motor Speedway, Charlotte Motor Speedway, Atlanta, you know what I mean, Talladega, you're at these monster ass tracks, and you get on the straightaway coming off of a turn, you step on it and you're flying, dude. So eventually they put restrictor plates, and it controlled how fast they could go. Now they can go 180 miles an hour. He didn't like restrictor plate racing. He didn't like the way NASCAR was telling the different teams how fast they could make their car, basically, and he just wasn't a fan of it. But later on, I got to see the highlights of the race, and it did finish I want to say it was a green white checker. Okay, but when Dale Earnhardt Sr. crosses the finish line, the start finish line, and does his thing, and then to pit. He goes to pit road, and the crew, the pit crew of all the drivers, all of them that were competing with Dale that day, were lined up, man, just lined up along pit road as Dale Sr. drove that black Chevrolet with the white number 3 on it down pit road, and he got congratulations and high fives from every single pit crew member and every team member, every crew chief. It was like, incidentally, happened while I was in Korea. John Elway won his first Super Bowl trophy. Could you imagine? Another bridesmaid. Been to the Super Bowl many times and got his brains beat in, right? And then he finally won one. And we know he ended up winning back to back. But that first one after the 97 season in early 98 against Green Bay was his first. And that's why he hung around so long. And I could only imagine the feeling of finally being the very best at your sport. Um, Dale Earnhardt Sr. had won the Cup championship 7 times by the time he won his first Daytona. Now he came in, he came in second 5 times. I mean, that's incredible. But with the day that he won it in '98, just like Elway's feeling of finally not being second, but being first, being number one. That's what Dale Earnhardt felt that day. Had to have. And whenever I look at the highlight reel now of that finish to the '98 Daytona 500, and I see the reaction and the reception and the camaraderie between those men, man, that is just, man, dude, that is just amazing. It kind of makes me feel like how I feel about hockey when at the end of a playoff series, the player, it don't matter what the score was, you're freaking going in the handshake line, and both teams come and meet at center ice and shake hands and act like gentlemen, right? Even though they were trying to kill each other for 3 periods, but same, just the gentlemanliness, um, the camaraderie, and just the respect, man, for Dale Earnhardt Sr. and for finally getting the win. Daytona 500 is the first race of the season, right? And it's a mad week, dude. They have all kinds of shootout races going on, man. And most drivers, even the popular drivers, Dale Earnhardt Jr. used to participate in all of them, and then qualify, finish somewhere or qualify somewhere in the top 10, and boom. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Won 2 Daytonas in his career. Never won a points championship, but he won 2 Daytonas. The Daytona 500 is considered to be, for those of you who aren't familiar with the sport, the motorsport, it's considered to be the Super Bowl of motorsports. The Super Bowl of NASCAR is the Daytona 500, and that trophy is beautiful with the classic car. If you've never seen the trophy for the Daytona 500, look it up. It's a pretty trophy, man. It really is. And the Daytona 500 had such a wild, you know, origin history, man. Right? Like, I mean, you know from the history of NASCAR that it originated with bootleggers. Literally, they would build these cars to be able to hold a load, right? Because they're loading all these glass bottles of booze. This is during Prohibition, right? And they had to make these cars fast. How fast, you ask? Fast enough to outrun the pow pow. That's how fast. That's in the 30s. Fast forward, you have the birth of NASCAR. Because these guys used to love to race and to outrun anybody. The police, you, your mama, it don't matter. If you're in a car, they'll race you. That led to the birth of NASCAR. Okay? So Dale Earnhardt, 2001. 2001 Daytona 500. He's a car owner now, remember. He doesn't own the car he drives in, but he owns the car that his son drives in, Dale Jr., and the car that Michael Waltrip, okay, the what is that? That was the Napa car, okay, number 15 Chevrolet. Dale Senior owned both those cars, so he has an interest in this race other than just him winning, right? Like he owns two cars. If one of those cars wins the race, and we know the results, one of his cars did win the race. Well, you know how it is. An owner gets paid when his car wins a race, man. So it's just so tragic that we lost him on that day. To me, February 18th, 2001 is one of those days that I'll always know where I was, what I was doing. My son Justin, who's 25, just turned 25 in February. He was born February 28th. That's important. But well, I'll tell you why it's important. One day in 2008, Justin was 7. He was sitting on my lap on a Sunday. We were watching a race, like we did a lot of Sundays. And after church, we'd watch the races, man. We lived in Tennessee, in Clarksville, about 3 hours from Talladega. So, NASCAR is a big part of the culture in Middle Tennessee. So we're watching the race, and Junior, and we're hollering for Junior, and Junior's in the red Budweiser car. This is still when he's racing for his dad. And he asked me, hey, how come I never saw Junior's daddy race? And I had to sit there and think about it for a minute. Man, that's right. You ain't never seen. Oh, and it hit me. I looked at him and I said, well, son, it's because God called Dale Sr. home 10 days before you were born. and that's how I explained it to a 7-year-old. But I'll tell you, I was living in Clarksville. It was obviously a Sunday. I was watching the race at home. I was in the bedroom and I saw the race, the wreck happened, and I got pissed. I threw the remote. I seen Dale Sr. walk away from much worse looking accidents in his career, right? And he walked away. Threw the remote, walked out. At that time, my buddy, my best friend at the time, still a real dear friend of mine, Gary Russell. We were co-workers. We were actually we're about to leave to go to see the very last WCW pay-per-view in Nashville, Tennessee. You wrestling fans from the 90s, you know what the heck I'm talking about, WCW. It was wild. Um, and so I jumped in the car, and Gary, my buddy, he loves all sports, man. And he said, hey, you saw your boy wrecked? I said, yeah, I saw. I said, man, I said, at least his car is finished first and second. And then we went on to Nashville, and we're just talking, talking sports, talking football mostly. And I remember we went to a meet and greet, and I got to meet a wrestler named Billy Kidman. And for those of you who remember WCW, you probably remember Billy Kidman. And if you had the WCW video game for the PlayStation 1, which I did, Billy Kidman's character in the game is amazing. The finishing move is called the 7-year itch, where he does this mad flip from the top rope and he lands on you. Man, it's hysterical. And when you hit the finishing move, it's fun. Well, I'm waiting in line to meet Billy Kidman, and some gentleman dropped his cell phone. This was '01. These were big flip flops, right? And I pick up his phone and hand it to him. I said, sir, you okay? What's going on? He said, oh, somebody just told me that Dale Earnhardt died today in that race in Daytona. And I couldn't believe it. I was in shock. And this was 2001, right? I couldn't just pick up my iPhone, which I didn't have at the time, pick up my iPhone and go to ESPN or go to Google This was 2001. So I went on about our evening and we saw wrestling, and then when I got home, I put on ESPN, and sure enough, the whole week was the death of Dale Earnhardt, and it radically changed the sport. You know, when he's coming around that turn 4 at the end of the race, there was a wreck between him and Sterling Marlin. Now, him and Sterling Marlin, you know, they don't have this horrific history together. They've probably, bumped and banged bumpers a little bit in their time racing together in the Winston Cup circuit. But I mean, they really weren't like enemies or nothing. So Sterling Marlin got death threats, which I think was totally wrong. It wasn't his fault. It's racing, man. You know, it's like football. You get your head knocked off. You were out there playing, bro. So if you're out there driving this car, you know the risks, right? You're driving a car 189 miles an hour. Well, what happened was coming off of turn 4, Junior and, well, not Marlin, Waltrip and Junior were leading. And Senior was trying to block right behind him, coming off that turn 4. Sterling Marlin gets into it with Dale Sr., and they hit the wall doing about 189 miles an hour. At which time Dale Sr.'s head suffered a head fracture because, you know, he didn't believe in wearing the Hans device that he had been known to be telling Junior to wear when he was newer to the sport and the Hans device came out. And it was optional then. He didn't have to wear it. And he did it. And he ended up giving up his life for it. Now, I don't think he would have any regrets because, you know, if you know that dude's character from watching his career and watching all the interviews and just, you know, following his life, he was going to do what he wanted to do, and he was going to go out, you know, his way, and he did. He went out uh, on the racetrack driving as fast as he possibly could. But I'll tell you, it was a hard time, a hard few days for me. You know, and of course watching the next race, Kevin Harvick replaced him. Well, didn't replace him, but replaced him on the team, if anything, on Richard Childress' team. So they took the car, they rebuilt it. Instead of painting it black, they painted silver and they put a number 29 on it. You know how awkward that looked to me? I ain't got nothing against Kevin Harvick. He was a new driver. By the way, the guy's a Hall of Famer. Great driver. Love Kevin Harvick, man. Love him. But he ended up jumping into that car with a number 29 on it, a new paint scheme, new sponsors, and the rest is history. It is fitting though that the following time that they met at Daytona, just 6 months later in July, Dale Jr. won that race. And I remember watching that as well. Um, I hope you guys that are NASCAR fans, um, leave some comments, man. Let me know what's your favorite race. What's your favorite moment in NASCAR? Some of the races that you've witnessed. You know, I've been some pretty good races, man. Pretty good tracks. I've gotten to see some really good finishes. At Darlington one year, Junior was leading like a son of a gun. Me and my son, Justin, was 13. Yeah, 13. I thought for sure we were going to watch Junior win a race live. Like we'd been to races before, but we never seen Junior win a race, man. So Junior goes in with, like, I don't know, maybe 10 laps left. He takes 2 tires. And I can't remember who won that damn race. Might have been Casey Kane, not sure. But whoever won the race took 4 tires. You know how NASCAR is. It's, do I get enough gas? Do I fill up? You know how many times Senior and Junior had won races on fumes? Because it's strategy. It's not just going in circles. You got to figure out how much gas to get. You know, you don't want to spend no more than, not, I mean, you can get a pit stop done in 9 seconds. That's fast. But most people, you see them coming out of the pit by 11, 12, 13 seconds. That's a long pit stop. You want to get back out there to line up. So when they drop that green, you're ready to go, 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 baby. Hey, for those of you who don't know NASCAR and you're curious or whatever, I mean, go check it out. It's a different sport today, right? I'm talking about something that happened 25 years ago. The sport was completely different. Right after Senior's death, the sport completely changed in many ways. Mostly safety, and that's great. That they made it safer for the drivers. They put in extra support walls and retaining walls, better equipment, better seat belts, better restraints. just to keep the drivers in the car. I mean, when you're going that fast, man, and still accidents happen, right? And we've lost drivers since then. So they're never gonna be 100% safe, right? It's pretty dangerous when you get in that behind the wheel of that car. But for those of you who know what I'm talking about, remember this race, remember Dale Earnhardt. Man, there's not a Daytona 500 that goes by every year that I don't think about this day. You know what I mean? I think about 98 because that's a happy memory, even though I didn't get to see it. I did get to see this one to its completion. And, even though at the moment I didn't know that my hero in NASCAR was gone, um, I did see his final race to the very end. And that does mean something to me as a NASCAR fan, as a Dale Earnhardt fan, right? I hope you've enjoyed this installment of All Time Replay, the sports podcast, where we relive the biggest moments in sports. This day, February 18th, 2001, was a big moment in the sport of NASCAR. And that's what I want to talk about today. So tune in next time when we're going to talk about the New York Yankees, Los Angeles Dodgers, 1977 World Series, specifically Game 6, Reggie Jackson, 3 swings, baby. See you then.